We've got two gaming handhelds at two very different prices, so let's dive in and see which one is right for you. I have plenty of people in my comments asking for advice on gaming handhelds because, let's be honest, I have a ton. And my collection is growing as I try to find the perfect one for me. On the left is the Anbernic RG35XX. On my right is the GPD Win4. The Anbernic RG35XX is a Linux-based system with technically two operating systems that come stock, Linux and Garlic OS. We'll get into that in just a bit. The GPD Win4 is a Windows OS, which I'm currently running Windows 11 on. This comes stock. Before I forget, no, I'm not sponsored by either of these companies, so don't think I have any brand loyalty here. Let's break down the specs for those who care. The RG35XX has a 3.5-inch IPS screen, quad-core ARM Core-X A9 CPU, quad-core PowerVR SGX 544MP GPU, 256 megabytes of DDR3 RAM, and 64 gigabytes of internal storage with 2 microSD slots for expandability. I will make a note, however, that the website does mention that there's a max of 512 gigabyte support. Not sure if that's for each slot. I haven't tested it, but I might in the future, so stay tuned. It's got a 6-hour battery life, and it does have 2.5 gigahertz Bluetooth compatibility, wired gamepad compatibility, and native HDMI mini output, which means yes, you can use this as a fully fledged console. I will go further into this later as well. Not to mention, if you do buy this from their website, it should come stock preloaded with a ton of retro games, which makes this thing a plug and play ready right out of the box situation, which you will hear me stress in this video. The RG35XX is ready to go out of the box. The GPD Win4 is not, and there's a big difference from how it comes stock to how I've been able to optimize it. On to the GPD Win4. There are several options on their website. I'll go over the one I got, which was the mid-range option. But quick rule of thumb, if you get the cheapest option, you'll sacrifice 16 extra gigabytes of RAM, which for the price difference is worth splurging for in the end if you intend on playing next-gen games. Not to mention a sacrifice in processor from the AMD 7840U to the AMD 7640U. They also offer two more expensive models, but who needs 64 gigabytes of RAM for that price? And I'll show you later on in this video how I was able to get past the 512 gigabyte memory limit on the model I purchased. Anyways, as I mentioned, my model comes with the AMD Ryzen 7 7840U and 512 gigabytes of memory stock. There's docking support through either the USB Type-C ports or the direct PCIe Gen 4 port. It has a 6-inch 1080p resolution with a 44 gigahertz and a 60 gigahertz refresh rate option. Full QWERTY backlit keyboard, optical fingerprint sensing mouse, micro SD slot for storage upgrade, and Wi-Fi 6. They also sell options for a dock, although I was able to get one much affordable by using a Steam Deck dock. And they also offer LTE support in case you're wanting to optimize your mobility when gaming, and of course, if you do decide to rock the Win with a data plan, it would be stupid not to go with our partners for this video. Hey, what you playing? I was just playing Lethal Company with some friends. Online? Our Wi-Fi's been down all day. Yeah, but I've got the LTE module in my Mint Mobile plan, so I get good speed, coverage, access to 5G, unlimited talk and text, and a mobile hotspot. How can you afford that? Well, did you know our partners for this video, Mint Mobile, offer all of this just for $15 a month? Oh, wow. You shouldn't have to pay more for your phone plan just to get the same stuff. Go to trymintmobile.com/Boolean, which is linked in the description, to get premium wireless for only $15 a month. Yeah, but switching my current plan seems like a pain. Nah, Mint Mobile makes it easy with eSIMs. That's how they keep their costs low. They do everything online. Don't you need a physical eSIM for that thing? I do, and that's why Mint ships a physical SIM for free on request. I just switched in since Mint is built on the nation's largest 5G network. I don't have any problems gaming on the go. Oh wow, that's great. So the GPD Win4 is obviously miles ahead of the RG35XX in specs. However, it's also 10 times the price. Well, there's just one thing. I did clickbait you. The RG35XX actually retails for $57.99, although they often have sales. A handheld closer to 10 times cheaper, if you want to be exact, is the RG353PS, which is going to be just a bit more powerful, toting a RK3566 quad-core 64-bit Cortex A55 CPU and an entire 1 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM. Look, we can bother with semantics all day, but I just couldn't afford the RG353PS for this video. I think the RG35XX still works for our cheap versus expensive comparison. There's actually few to no devices that can perform as well as the Anbernic for the price. So let's get into what it can actually do. The RG35XX is wonderfully pocket-sized, and it also has one of the best feels for long-time play, as it borrows a similar design to the Game Boy Mini. Don't forget the triggers on the back, which are super nice and clicky. The entire thing just feels good. Personally, I would like something like the RG35XX H, which just came out, and it's more of a horizontal layout. but the RG35XX is pulling off the vertical layout excellently. When you first boot the device, you will see the native OS, which is the Linux-based OS. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. You can change the icons and the background image, and I'm sure you can upload your own, so that does fix things. You'll notice the device comes preloaded with a ton of retro games, which I don't entirely condone, but they are getting away with it somehow. Don't get me wrong, I love a good free backup of a game, but selling the game backups is a very gray area. What can it play? All the basics, like all Game Boy games, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, NES, SNES. It actually runs PS1 games fairly well. Some have issues with frame skipping, but if you don't mind frame skipping, you can try DS games as well, although switching between screens can be a pain. And with some optimizing, you can run N64 games. I also didn't have a problem popping in the included SD card and copying some of my own backups into the proper locations. There's also a ton of other emulators like Arcade Classics, and they even have some PC ports. Yes, it can run Doom. If you want to do some of the overclocking, pushing the system to its limit, that's what Garlic OS is for. You can access it pre-installed by going to the settings and hitting Switch OS. I won't delve super deep into Garlic in this video as it most likely needs its own video, and there are plenty of guides online, some of which I will link in the description. As I mentioned earlier, if you plug the console into a monitor or a TV and connect a controller to it, you end up with a fully fledged console. The native controller support is super easy, and I've been able to use a USB-C to USB-A dongle to connect some of my more unique controllers. You can also use this to connect more than one controller for multiplayer games. So for just under $60, you can get a pretty much all-in-one console that's comfortable and adaptable that can play most things older than a DS. It's perfectly pocket-sized, which makes it a great airport companion, and it's hard to find anything out there this good for that price. I know it exists, but I can only name a couple. Now for the Win4. This thing is a beast. In my search for the ultimate portable gaming solution, I've stumbled upon many options, but in November of last year, this is what I ended up deciding on. And let me tell you, I'm still learning to optimize and customize this system. It is not for the faint of heart. Out of the box, it's pretty much a fully fledged gaming PC in a handheld fashion. It's significantly faster than a Steam Deck, and it has just a bit more battery life. Though I optimized this as well, which I'll touch on in a second. So with that knowledge, you can go in any direction. Sure, download Steam, log in, download some games, and the controller just works. Since everything is recognized by Windows as an Xbox controller, pretty much anything that can be played with X input or D input just works, which is nice and much nicer than fiddling with Linux on a Steam Deck or any other known compatibility issues with Windows handhelds. If you have trouble with connecting controllers via Bluetooth, just switch the device to mouse mode. Then the native controller isn't recognized, and again, everything just seems to work. Having trouble with a crashing game? Alt-Tab, because there's a QWERTY keyboard. It seems like a gimmick, but it is so handy when navigating Windows and setting stuff up. It's fairly comfortable. I like how small it is compared to the Steam Deck, and I don't feel like a giant bozo while playing it, but I do wish the grips were more substantial. There's some 3D printed grips online, one which I printed myself, and it just doesn't satisfy. But what about the real reason we are comparing it to the RG35XX? The emulation. Right, so this thing can play anything. Everything we covered with their own emulators set up and optimized for Windows. Need to configure a controller? It's exactly how it works on a regular PC. In fact, my computer is so old, this handheld is more powerful than it. What about some of the more taxing emulators? Yep, CitraWorks, CMU, Ryujinx, Yuzu. And if you can't emulate it, you can download it for the PC. The only thing this device can't play are PS5 exclusives, which, if that's your complaint, I don't know. Get a PS5. How big is the exclusive library on that anyways? The one problem I have found is that since Ryujinx and Yuzu are both so early in their life cycle, there are still stuttering issues with cutscenes and slight frame skipping on some of the games. But this is a known problem with the emulators and not the device. Maybe someday. I was still able to rock a full Mario Odyssey playthrough as long as I skipped through the cutscenes. And since CMU works like a charm, any of the Wii U crossovers are fine to play on that platform. But I'll do you one better. Remember how nice it was to have a menu to select your games? Let me introduce you to Launchbox. Launchbox is a free program that collects the data and locations of all of your games and emulators and puts them into one place for you to select. So after you take all that time to set up each emulator and games and controller settings, you simply tell Launchbox where they are and you can launch them from there. But we can do better than that. Launchbox has a paid version called Big Box, which launches into its own program where you can customize each game cover and how you're able to select them. Don't worry, you don't have to find the artwork. Launchbox searches the web and downloads them automatically for you. So what I did then was set up all of my emulators through Launchbox and then made Big Box run on Windows Start. Now, every time I turn on my GPD Win4, it takes just 2 seconds to launch into the game selector. Now, it's perfectly streamlined. Comment below if you want me to make a dedicated video on this setup. Nevertheless, I have added Xbox Game Pass games, PC games, Steam, and all of my emulators. It gets even better once you dock the system and you're able to bring pretty much any system fully on the go. I once brought the Win over to a friend's and we connected 2 of his PS5 controllers and 2 of his PS4 controllers to Dolphin and played modded Mario Kart like it was nothing. But I'm not done. What about the battery life? Well, there's an entire Reddit thread which I have linked in the description detailing certain things to toggle which extend the battery life on this thing from 2 to 4 hours. That's 4 hours possibly playing Cyberpunk on 720p medium settings, but pair that with this insane 25,600 milliamp hour portable battery I got, and you can play this thing for 8 hours straight. But Julian, I'm gonna run out of space. What about the 512 gigabytes of memory? Of course. So it's a PC, right? So we can just upgrade it. Yep, the minute I got this thing, I bought a 4TB SSD on sale for about $180. Retail price, it was like $223. There's even a guide online on how to copy Windows over to the new SSD so you don't have to buy it again. The install probably took 20 minutes max. I also want to mention, recently I bought these iPhone kickstands and thumbstick grips for the Win, which are also a game changer. The Win thumbsticks are actually the exact same size as Nintendo Switch thumbsticks, so do with that information what you will. In short, the GPD Win4 is awesome. It can play anything and everything wherever, as long as you spend an extra $200 on top of the $800 you already spent. And if you spend 2 hours optimizing the battery, buy a $100 portable battery the size of the actual device, a $20 dock, and you spend 12 plus hours downloading backups and optimizing emulators. Then, only then, is it better than the Steam Deck, which you can play right out of the box. But the big question, cheap versus expensive. What would I recommend? Well, I've probably spent more hours on the GPD Win4, but I would say I have most likely created the most unapproachable consumer product. It's not an out-of-the-box situation, and you have to be dedicated to the craft to really use this thing to the fullest potential. For retro games, my itch is satisfied with simpler things like the GameCube, which can be run with one of the other Anbernic devices. But to the core, if you're wanting something to whip out real quick and play some old Pokemon or Earthbound, or Kirby, or anything of the sort, this is the perfect and most affordable option. I have to take a whole Radio Shack with me when I travel with the Win, but the RG35XX comes with a super slim case if you need to bring along the mini HDMI, or just shove it in your pocket. I think this highlights an issue with the modern handheld gaming industry. We want to play the latest games, so there's this growing demand to make these monster machines that are barely considered portable, so we can play AAA games while they heat up to an agonizing level of heat and have a turbo fan cracking on the back. Sure, it's cool, but I miss the simpler days when there were games designed to be played mobilely. And I don't mean iPhone games, don't get me started on those. The RG35XX is perfect for what it was designed for, and that is some light casual gaming on the go. If you really want to sit on a bus and play the latest God of War, then do so. But go big or go home, because if you're already spending the money for a portable gaming PC, then why not? This is the same argument with console versus PC. Sure, you can build a PC faster than any PS5 or Xbox could, but at what cost? Not to mention, the average casual gamer doesn't want to take the time and money. It's just not for everyone. There's a lot of people who just want to plug in something and turn it on and get to gaming, and that's okay. I think the RG35XX or any of those Anbernic devices under $100 are perfect for that market. And if you want to go off the deep end, I also got you covered. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave any suggestions in the comments for some more comparisons. Should I go cheaper? Should I go more expensive? Well, with that being said, I will see you in the next video.